Sunday the 30th July 2006.
What's your name?
Winifred Mary Gregg Simcock, née Brian.
Where were you born?
St Martin's, Jersey, in the Channel Islands.
And when were you born?
November the 7th, 1925.
What sort of family were you born into?
There were, first of all, my elder sister Marguerite, then there was Elizabeth, then I was born, and then my young brother Douglas was born 2 years later.
And Rosemary?
Rosemary was born 10 years later. In fact, my young brother died at the age of 6 of pneumonia.
That was very sad.
Very sad, yes, but I can remember it quite well. So life went on, and eventually my parents must decide to try for another boy, and my sister Rosemary was born on the 31st of March. I'm trying to think of the date now. She's 10 years younger than me, so work that out.
I will do at some point, don't worry. You moved around a fair bit, didn't you? Because your dad was a headmaster.
That's right. He was at St Martin's State School. We lived in a tied house, and we lived there until I was about 10. My brother died, as I said before, whilst we were there. We moved when I was about 10 to St Helier. Not sure if that's right. On the top of West Mount. Can you stop it? You can't. Okay. I should work this all out.
Well, don't worry about the details. I'll ask you some more questions because that will prompt
okay.
something. What sort of life was it on Jersey when you were a child?
Very simple life. If you're going back to St Martin's, we had very simple food. My father had a large garden. He did have some help to dig the garden over, but we grew our own potatoes, vegetables, fruit. Fetched our milk every day from the farm, unpasteurised, but most of it my mother boiled, and when it was cold skimmed the cream off, which was the equivalent to what you'd buy today as Cornish clotted cream.
What would be your typical breakfast?
We still had things that were quite civilised. Shredded wheat or cornflakes and bread and butter and marmalade and weak tea.
And what dinner, was that sandwiches, or did you have a cooked meal at the school?
No. We went to my grandmother who lived in town. Again, that was a very simple meal. She had no gas to cook on. She had a little range, so it was possibly, as far as I remember, cold meat on some days with vegetables and an apple and a biscuit for pudding. And on Fridays, I always remember mackerel baked in the oven with bay leaves, which were rather bitter. I never liked bay leaves particularly, but we had to eat it. We were all brought up. Boiled potatoes, and again it was a simple thing. An apple, half an apple, and biscuits for pudding.
What sort of things did you do when you weren't in school? Did you play, or did you have a friend, or go swimming? An island or the sea not far away?
Homework, and sometimes play in the garden. This was when we still lived in the country, and then bed at 6 or 6:30.
Very early.
Even in the summer, which was a penance, but we used to try and read comics in bed. We weren't supposed to, but we did. My two elder sisters at that time had music lessons in town, so when my father had to oversee the bedtime, when the Angelus bell went at the little Catholic church in the country, that was a signal for bed. Go into bed, go indoors, get undressed, put yourselves to bed.
At some point you had people from France who would come across. What was that about?
That was towards the end of our time. The parish priest came to us one day asking us to put up a French student. He'd been more or less turfed out of a little local school, and my mother took him in out of pity, and he was a mature student, and he stayed with us for a few weeks, and that was that. I I think afterwards we moved to town, but the word had got across, and one day the Jesuits came. They were Jesuit students, and there were these two ladies from posh family in France, and mother put them up, and she did, and gave them some lessons, and so this snowballed, and the next year we had boys, more young, yes, they were boys, 15, 16-year-olds, and any money, she didn't charge very much, but she did make a bit of money.
Were they meant to speak English, or did you speak French to them?
Oh, yes, they had to speak English all the time. She gave them dictation lessons, vocabulary. They had to learn 20 new words every day, and we were drafted in to hear them read. They used to bring their set book, which was something like David Copperfield, something like that.
But you speak French, so where did you learn French?
Well, we learnt it at school from the age of 7, and the parish churches were all run by French oblates of Mary, and the sermons, everything was in French, so your ear got accustomed to French. We didn't speak French at home, but we had a good grounding in French at school. From the age of 7 you learnt your basic verbs and vocabulary, and progressed from there.
That's rather unusual, because languages weren't taught in primary school in England.
No, they weren't. The only time languages were taught was during German occupation, and the last year of the German occupation my father had to supposedly teach German.
That was a very hard time in your lives, wasn't it, when the Germans came?
Well, not initially, but as time went on it was, and for us it brought another sadness to the family. My sister was 18 and I was 16, and she started nursing, and she was doing quite well, and at the Easter of the first year she was training, she got what seemed to be like severe flu, and she was delirious one night, but she recovered, went back to work, still complaining of backache, and then some months later, August, she went down with a severe infection, and they must have had some idea, I don't know how, but she had a lumbar puncture, and it was diagnosed as tubercular meningitis. She drifted into a coma and was dead in a week, so that was a big shock to us.
How did you hear about that?
I went to visit her in hospital.
Oh, it was after the war then?
No, this was during the occupation.
Right, but within Jersey?
Within Jersey,
I
yes.
thought your sister died over
The eldest sister, Margaret, evacuated.
I knew Margaret had gone to...
Yeah.
I didn't realise that your other sister died in Jersey.
Yeah.
I didn't really realise that.
Yes, it's true. So we'd always knocked about together. We were both born in November, and we were great pals.
So.
And but it made you grow up very quickly. I had to do my best to support my mother as well, and as the physical conditions got worse.
You left, didn't you? You worked in chemist or something.
Oh, that's after I left school.
Yeah, but still during the war, still when the Germans
were there. Still under occupation, yes.
And food was short as well.
Food was short. We had to do things. Mother used to go up on a bicycle, go around the farms, people we knew, and get extra milk and vegetables and apples. And we went gleaning in the fields. Got a big sack full of ears of corn, which we'd bring home.
It's been a great relief when the war came to an end then.
Yes, but I stayed on another year at the request of the boss, this chemist shop, DeFay's in Bath Street, and ran the dispensary. I'd obviously learnt basics of dispensing from his son, who'd gone off to college, and eventually I said, I need to go, and I left there and started at Chelsea Poly. My father had to fund it. I stayed in a very austere hostel in Gower Street, very basic hostel, like no visitors, nun's parlour, and doors shut by 11 o'clock.
But you escaped to Winchester somehow?
Well, that was much later. When I got my exams, I got my professional certificate, and started looking for a job, and found this post at a very big practice in Winchester. 6 doctors, 2 midwives, secretary, receptionists, and
Responsible
2
job then.
dispensers.
A responsible job then.
Oh, quite. Not,
And then
not
somebody
that way
met Dad.
paid. £5 a week, out of which I paid £1.50 for my digs.
And you met Dad at some point.
Oh, that was, yes, a bit later on. I joined, I used to go to evening vespers at the church, and afterwards this little club where we could have play table tennis, a small library, record player, and the little refreshment served by some Italians. I'm not sure if the name was Sidoli, but they make coffee and homemade cakes.
No one Sidoli.
Oh, never mind. Doesn't really matter what the name was, but it was a friendly place to be. And eventually, the soldiers used to come down. I got invited to the camp at time 2 of the officers' balls. And then,
He wasn't an officer, he was only a corporal.
Oh, I know, but he didn't come till later. In the camp was another lad, a civilian from St Helens, and he knew about this club, and he said to Tom, "Why don't you go down?" And eventually he turned up, and with persistence he eventually persuaded me to go out for a walk or 2 with him, and so things progressed.
And the rest is history.
Sort of. I changed my job because of him. Went to work at St Anne's, and thinking we'd be near each other, not realising that A, he hadn't got very much money, and B, he'd only come down once a month and stay at a B&B round the corner, so that took what little saving he had, and it was a long time before we
Must have been
could
true love.
save up. I started getting things together for when we decided it might be serious. I was there for 2.5 years, I think, something like that. And the rest, as you say, is history.